Welcome to the Short Term Show, the show about short-term rentals and long-term wealth, with real property owners hosting real properties who are crushing it in the vacation and short-term rental space. And here's your host, Avery Carl.
Come party with me, Cashflow Carl at BPCon. I'm hosting the short-term rental workshop. You can sign up for this when you sign up for BPCon. You can do that at biggerpockets.com/events. This is October 15th through the 17th for the event. I am speaking at 2 different presentations, but what you're looking to sign up for is the short-term rental workshop, hosted by yours truly, Cashflow Carl, the Reverend of Real Estate, and Avery Carl. So the short-term rental workshop, BPCon 2023, October 15th. Sign up before it sells out.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show. Today we're going a little bit off of our usual short-term rental topic here, but still in the real estate investing world. But I know a lot of you have interest in mobile home park investing. So we have a great guest on today, Charlotte Dunford from Johns Creek Capital, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about mobile home park investing. How's it going, Charlotte?
Going pretty well. How about yourself?
Doing great. Just living the dream.
Awesome.
Yeah. So can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you became, got interested in investing in real estate and eventually mobile home parks?
Right. So my name is Charlotte Dunford. Long story short, I grew up until I was 16 years old in China. And then I moved to the United States for high school by myself without my parents in Pennsylvania. Then I went to Georgia Institute of Technology here in the South. We call it the MIT in the South, but we would also like to call MIT the Georgia Tech in the North. So graduated, took my first job as a business analyst, and immediately I started investing in real estate on the side using my salary to finance it. I realized very early on, especially coming from a communist state where I grew up, and owning property was simply impossible. Nobody owned homes. Everybody leased it from the government for 70 years. So because of that, that really got me interested in actually owning a property because that's something that was so restricted where I came from. So immediately starting buying real estate. The first deal I got was a single family home in the south of Atlanta, using my salary as a business analyst fresh out of college to finance for it. And then I got into, I listened to podcasts just like yourselves on my commute to work back and forth about 3 hours, and multiply that by 5 days, that's 15 hours per week just on commute. That's like a part-time job. So I decided to make something out of it. So I learned and decided that, we need economy of scale. So single family homes, we need more than that. So I wanted to scale up my portfolio, just like a lot of you guys listening wanting to do. So the second one I got was a duplex up in North Georgia using my salary. But the salary as a newly grad from college, as good as Georgia Tech could only take you so far. So I decided to make a jump, take a risk when I was 24. I quit my full-time corporate job and started my own company, Johns Creek Capital, along with my partner who has over 40 years of business experience and real estate and fund experience. Started Johns Creek Capital. So how I got into mobile home parks was I originally wanted to get into multifamily. That was the most, heated thing at the time, and still today. And everybody, has a book. Everybody, have heard of a boot camp or course to get into multifamily to change your life forever, right? That kind of courses. But it was just almost impossible for someone who was 24 years old, who did not have experiences in multifamily, and the brokers wouldn't even talk to you. So I did I did my research and found this little blue ocean niche called mobile home parks. That was not very competitive, that a lot of people have ignored. Everybody wanted to chase after the brighter, shinier things, but I am a firm believer in blue ocean strategy, where not a lot of competition exists yet, and the niche was not saturated and still not saturated. So I got into it and got my first deal, one of the first deals seller financing with 30% down, 3% interest rate, 30-year amortization, and 10-year balloon. I mean, that's just like free money nowadays, 3% interest rate for that long. So one thing led to another, and we attracted more investor interest because the portfolio was growing. We're kind of making a name for ourselves in the industry. Now we own over 28 mobile home parks across the United States. And I think this asset class, the simplest way to summarize it is a parking lot business. The closest asset class to mobile home parks will be a parking lot. So the homes park in your parking lot, mobile home park, and then pay you a lot rent. So you're not responsible for anything that's going on inside of the mobile home. Mobile homes are considered actually personal properties, and like a car, they actually get their title from DMV. So that's the attractiveness of this niche, is that it's not saturated. The big institutional funds are not going after it as much, and there's still a lot of mom and pop owners where you can get great deals from, and it's like a parking lot.
Yeah, I think that's the really cool part about it, is that you can structure it to where at some point, maybe when you're buying initially, you may own the actual mobile homes as well, but you can structure the rental as such that the people who are living there are kind of renting to own, so that eventually you don't have to worry about actually maintaining those. That's their responsibility also. Do you guys do that kind of thing with it, or just stick with
that? Yeah, that's certainly an arrangement that's very popular once you take over. We prefer that it starts off as a tenant-owned homes, which means the tenant owns the home to start with, because with the park-owned homes, if the park-owned home tenant is not the ideal tenant, often they're not. So you would have to go through the eviction process. You have to put someone new in. You have a rental that's vacant, and you can just sell it to someone. Even more attractive, because the homes sometimes are so old. You actually want to give it to someone, and just for exchange for a lot rent. That's actually more attractive. So I think,
oh, really?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Yeah. So the homes aren't worth much, a few $1,000s at most. So you sell it to someone. So the number one thing that boosts the morale within a mobile home park, which in turn boosts the performance, is pride of ownership. So this is the American dream of owning a home, a quality home that they can call home, really. So you don't want a bunch of people, renting your homes who have no pride of ownership, would trash your park and make life miserable for other residents. Think of it as an HOA, right? Usually HOAs have rules as far as how many rental tenants can be there. Same with apartment buildings, right? They have rules. HOA has rules as far as 20% has to be 80% has to be owners. So same with mobile home park, we prefer 80% and above, all tenant-owned homes. There are a few park-owned homes. That's okay. We'll transition away from that, exactly like you said, through the arrangement that you just mentioned. It's kind of like a rent credit program. It's pretty similar to the rent-to-own. Actually, is a pretty popular practice when it comes to mobile home parks, park-owned homes.
So let's say you're brand new to this, like you were at one point, and you're like, you know what, I think my portfolio is in such a way right now that I want to try a new asset class. Let's try mobile home parks. What would a new investor be looking for in terms of what a good deal looks like? Are there any rules of thumb or just best practices in terms of how many pads it really needs to have in order to be not necessarily lucrative, because that's going to be a deal by deal basis. But I see lots of little deals come across my desk, and it's like a 6-unit mobile home park, or, a 100-unit or pad mobile home park. So is there any benefit or, I guess, best practice in terms of size of park that you would be looking for?
So the niche we're in at Johns Creek Capital, we're after the relatively small to medium-sized parks. So the bigger ones, they're chased after by institutional buyers. Usually their cap rates are pretty low to start with, which makes the exit a return a little bit lower. But they do have the stability because they are buying a really fancy mobile home park, probably a 1 to 2% cap rate, and you're not getting much of a return. But you have the stability because everything is fancy and nice and neat. But for a smaller park, and we're in the value add business, which we, improve the parks, add new units in there, infilling, doing cosmetic upgrades, the road work, and then raising lot rent because lot rents are incredibly low to start with. We do all of the value add strategies in order to bring up the NOI, thus the value of the park. So as far as the size, the niche we're in are usually under 50 units, and it's really deal by deal, but usually under 15 units, and that's why we're kind of in the niche. Still blue ocean, we're kind of dominating this niche as a company because it's totally a different animal from the bigger parks or even 300 lots or 1,000 lots. I have I'm friends with owners who have thousands of lots, and it's like a small city, a subdivision. So there are all kinds of parks out there. I would say from a returns perspective, if you want kind of a moderate return, you have a pretty good risk tolerance. But moderate risk is calculated risk. You definitely want something. What we offer is kind of a moderate risk, but definitely higher returns upon exit. One example would be a park that we sold last year. We completed full cycle for. It's actually a very small park, 17 lots in Iowa. We bought it in 2020 and sold it 22 months later. On a project level, the internal rate of return was 25%.
Wow, that's amazing. So would you say there's any type of location that works better? So I see a lot of those deals come across my desk that are in very, very rural areas. So is it better to stay maybe within a certain distance of metro areas, or do you prefer to be out in like a rural area where there's probably not a lot of rentals to begin with? So you might be one of the only options for long-term renters.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we're looking for is we don't want to go in a place that's extremely rural, that there's really nothing there. That also indicates the market is depressed, right? Because if there's no rentals to begin with, that means other businesses don't find it attractive. That means there's no demand. So we want a place that is closer to a metro. We don't want something in the middle of nowhere. Those mobile home parks are just going to die eventually, very sadly, but that's just what's going to happen because there's no economy there. What we want to see is a mobile home park that is close to or part of a metro. It doesn't have to be right in the middle of the metro. You can be in the vicinity of the metro. The metro needs to have at least 100,000 people in population, if not way more. So that's the golden rule that we found. Also look at the housing prices in town, right? So in that city or county, look at the housing prices. Mobile home park is an affordable housing industry. It's an affordable housing option. So people go there because it's less expensive, right? So you have to compare other housing options in the city, in town, versus what you're offering as a mobile home park owner. If your lot rent is $500, which is not really happening across the country, it's about $300. So if your lot rent is $300 and all the other apartment buildings around you are charging $400, then you're out of business. So you're not really that much more affordable than the apartment building. So nobody would want to go to a mobile home park unless, it's a lot more affordable. So remember, the industry we're in is the affordable housing business. So you really want to see the difference about $300 to $500. If the apartment around you are charging $800 to $900 for rent and your lot rent is only $300, then you got a competitive edge.
This episode of the Short Term Show has been brought to you by your friendly Short Term Shop real estate agent. We are hyper-local and totally dedicated to your success. Whether you want to buy your next short-term rental or sell the one you currently own, we would be honored to earn your business. We are in all of the best vacation markets in America. Find us at theshorttermshop.com. That's theshorttermshop.com. Brokered by EXP.
This episode of The Short Term Show is brought to you by The Short Term Shop. 30-year fixed mortgages, tax benefits, and long-distance management training made easy are just a few of the perks of owning a short-term rental. The Short Term Shop can help you buy and learn how to manage your property from anywhere in the world. Just go to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected. Again, that's theshorttermshop.com. and we are brokered by EXP. See y'all over there. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense that you wouldn't necessarily want to be in competition with a lot of apartment buildings for obvious reasons. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about adding value, because I think that's something that across all asset classes now you kind of have to do. There's not just great deals laying around. You have to find the deals that you can add the most value to get those numbers to where you want them to be. So how does one, if we don't have like a house where we can renovate the kitchen or renovate the bathrooms, how do you add value to a mobile home park?
So a mobile home park is you own the neighborhood, right? So you are in charge of anything that's outside of their home, right? So I would not recommend anything like a clubhouse or a swimming pool. That's not for mobile home parks. The best kind of mobile home parks are usually pretty. The land doesn't have a lot of trees on it, so it doesn't have that kind of hazard. And the kind of value add you would do is really for the neighborhood, for the curb appeal, we call it, right? So good examples include adding a new sign to the park, right? What is your mobile home park called, right? So if it is called, country feeling mobile home park, I don't know, I'm just making things up. So you can just add a new sign that has a really good, attractive signage. They're really cheap to do. Add a new sign, put in front of the park, put the property management's phone number on it so people can see, wow, there's a neat neighborhood tucked away here, or there's a neat neighborhood. And actually they want to call you up and see if they could live in your neighborhood. That's the best kind of infilling. Doesn't cost money on your part that much to do, but it increases significantly the NOI, which is your property value, right? So doing business is all about, making the biggest impact with the smallest amount of money possible. So adding a signage, is automatic marketing, is automatic curb appeal boost. Great idea. Also adding white fences, give it a more of a feeling of a neighborhood, right? So white fences give it a country view, neighborhood feel, and also boost pride of ownership, boost morale within the park, boost longevity of the tenants, not their age, but stability of the tenants. So that's a great idea too. And another more of kind of a heavy value add, can be a little bit more expensive, but very, very effective would be infilling. Infilling indicates infilling one of the vacant lots that has utilities set up. So what you need to do, there are two ways to do it. One way we prefer much more than the other is to have attract tenants advertise the law, saying that you have lots for rent and you have a great community here, just like an HOA. You have lots available and you want homeowners to buy a home, maybe new construction on that lot. So that way, most of the costs lay on the tenant's shoulders, not yours. So that's the one way to do it. And number two is that we can go out to buy a used home or a new home to bring it into your park. And there are two different types, right? So new home versus old home. We don't really like the the old home, because why would you want to get into the rental business? We're not in the rental business. We're in the mobile home park parking lot business. So that opens up another can of worms. Buying a new home, it gives you less risks because they tend to break down less, just like when you buy a single family home. Older homes definitely have more issues. So those are, pretty major cosmetic upgrades and infilling. And number three is that what you do immediately after you take over is you raise rents. Because mobile home park rents, comparatively to apartment building rents, they're stagnating to the 70s level. It's ridiculous. So what you need to do is that you need to raise rent day one. If the previous owner have not raised rent in the past 6 months, you'd raise rent no more than $50. Again, case by case, look at the deal, look at your local economics. What are the other parks charging in the area? What are the other housing options charging in the area? Obviously, if the rent level is already super high, you don't want to raise rent, but raise rent if you can, because mobile home park lot rents are pretty low. I would say it is catching up as more institutional investors are getting more interested in this lucrative space, but I would say there are still chances. There's still blue ocean out there that you can hunt for.
Okay, awesome. And I also see mobile home park listings sometimes where it will say, we have X amount of pads, but there's the ability or opportunity to add Y amount more. Is that difficult to do? So are you having to subdivide anything or do anything permitting wise with the county or city, or can you just slap some more pads down and call it a day?
No, you can't do that, and extremely difficult to do that. So that's why the beauty, you're exactly head on, right? So right on the on the topic because, people think about, there's affordable housing crisis. Why not just build more mobile home parks, expand the lot, expand the park, and give it more lots? The problem is that due to zoning and permitting laws and regulations, most municipalities want mobile home parks out of their city because it's for tax reasons, right? They would rather have a commercial building, a dental office where the mobile home park is than it is a mobile home park. But many of mobile home parks are grandfathered in, so they can't really remove you. So they were definitely not going to let you expand the park. So that's the beauty of the industry, is that there's so much meat on the bone, but the supply is limited and demand is huge. The demand for affordable housing is ever growing, especially in an economic crisis, and the supply is limited, right? Because they don't permit any new zoning for mobile home parks. You can't just add more mobile home parks. With the demand keep going up, but the supply remains low and slower and lower. That creates a huge economic opportunity. And I would say even for the places where new developments are taking place, the speed of which is nowhere near the speed of demand growing.
Gotcha. So, okay, we've talked about kind of where you want to focus on, the size that you guys personally focus on, how to add value. So let's talk about financing a mobile home park. What does the financing look like? If you're not a fund, if you're just a regular old person who says, hey, I think I want to buy this mobile home park, how do you do that?
Well, definitely try to make seller financing offers. A lot of sellers, they don't advertise it as seller financing available, but definitely make offers anyways, because the best deals that we found through seller financing is when they don't advertise it as seller financing. They may say no to you at first, but you just have to have the courage and the persistence to make the seller financing offer to make it work. Because the issue here is, especially in the niche we're in the small to medium level mobile home parks, a lot of big institutional banks wouldn't want to issue a loan to it because, think about it. If it is $500,000 mobile home park, they would rather issue a loan to a single family home that's $500,000 than a kind of a little bit higher risk mobile home parks. So because of that, sellers are incentivized in order to get things sold, and brokers too, incentivized by the same thing. In order to get their home property sold, they want to offer seller financing. Now, one thing that we've learned is that the best properties don't usually advertise seller financing. If they say, put on their forehead and say seller financing available, usually mean there's something wrong with the deal. So you got to check it. But I would say the first step is definitely try to make lots of seller financing offers. And if seller financing just doesn't work with the seller, try to make a cash offer at a significantly discounted price. Negotiate hard, right? Negotiate as if this is the last deal you got, but it's not. Just negotiate really hard. And third option, you can try to find a local bank who would look at mobile home parks. And there are plenty of banks out there today who are more open to mobile home parks. And the last deal we sold it for $495,000. And our buyer totally financed through a local, I think it was a credit union or bank. So it's very much common, but I would say the best way to deal with it, to bypass the red tape, bypass the complexity of a bank and a prolonged closing, is to do cash deals at a significant discount or a leverage deal with attractive terms with the owner.
All right. Makes sense. So would you say that owner financing is more commonly acceptable in the mobile home park world than like in the single family world?
Absolutely. Yes. 100%.
Okay, awesome. Because in the single family, people are like, no, thank you. Give me my money. And I don't want to talk to you ever again in my life. So
for sure. Yeah, exactly. That's not the scene in mobile home park. It's changing, but I would say there's still opportunities.
Okay, awesome. What else do you think a new mobile home park investor would need to know? We've gone over financing, value add. I have one. So I know I don't own any mobile home parks, but I do own apartment buildings. And if you come in and have like a new way of the way you want them to submit their rent, a lot of times that can get some pushback. It can take a while to get for them to really adopt it. So is mobile home park the same way? Are people do they want to just come up to the front office and, give you an envelope, or are they apt to doing like mobile pay and stuff like that?
As far as pushbacks, nobody likes their rents being raised. I mean, that's just how it is. But you have to do it. The inflation goes up, and you're in the business of making money, so you have to be thinking in terms of economics, not trying to be nice to tenants, right? And another way you can do it. Oh, to add on to the value add, I'm sorry. One more thing is pushing back utilities. A lot of times parks don't have utilities directly billed, especially water, not directly billed to tenants. So you want to push it back or sub-meter, push it on to the tenant. That's a huge value add. You might not even need to do the lot increase. We're actually doing some of those right now. So huge one. But anyway, so as far as property management, we do it in the house, and we collect our rent. They can send a check. They can do it electronically. We accept any kind of property management company would accept forms of payment. But yeah, so usually there's some pushbacks. But here's the thing, though. Good tenants don't really leave after a $50 increase in their lot rent. Because if they're that economically strained, that $50 per month is going to push them over the edge. Think about it. Do you really want that person as a tenant in your park? So I would say if you're starting out and you want to, raise rent, you're scared of pushbacks, I say do it, because that will actually be a pretty good filtering system. I've done it during COVID, actually, where there was eviction moratorium going on, and tenants, maybe they have more ammunition against landowners, and it's in Illinois, out of all places, a very much a tenant-friendly state where I did it. I raised about $100 per rent, and nobody moved out.
Oh,
so you just have to be, there's pushbacks. There are people who were very angry with me, but it's okay. We're in the business to make money. We're not in the business to be best buddies with them. If they were my best buddies, I don't want to raise rents on them. That's okay, but that's not how it works. So that's what I say about that.
Gotcha. So we're coming to the end of the time. So I've got 3 questions that we ask every single person who comes on the show, same time, every time. But before we do that, are there any other points that you want to make about mobile home park investing, or things that you think our listeners would benefit from hearing that we didn't cover?
Right. So if you're interested in mobile home park investing and you like to do it passively, definitely feel free to reach out to me. And the best way to do it, maybe Avery would put in her show notes, or say later you already had it on planned. So to go to our website at johnscreekcapital.com, or email us directly at info@johnscreekcapital.com.
All right. So first question, what advice would you give 20-year-old Charlotte?
Don't worry too much. Go for it. 20s is a time to get experience and exposure, and it's a learning process.
Great advice. Next, what advice would you give to a new investor who's looking to get started today? Weird time in the real estate cycle history. What advice would you have for them who's looking newbie?
Right. A newbie, I say, understand that real estate or any business is a team sport. So get the right team members on your team, because one person cannot be good at everything. You have something that you're not good at. Outsource something that you're not good at to someone who's extremely talented at it. Then you can have a world-class operation.
Also great advice. And last, this one's a little more fun. What is your favorite book that's impacted your mindset?
It's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. He is a PayPal co-founder along with Elon Musk in the early years, and he has lots of good investments. So Peter Thiel, 0 to 1, talks about startups, entrepreneurship, and how you need to sell as a category of 1, and how to turn a big profit instead of just a race to the bottom, diminishing profits.
All right. Great recommendation. I don't think that one's been recommended before. All right. So you, yeah, I'm going to pick it up. I haven't read that one. Okay. So we've gone over where they can find you, at Johns Creek Capital. Anything else before we go? Where they want to, maybe if our listeners want to follow you on socials, anything like that?
Oh yeah, follow us follow me on LinkedIn, get connected, follow us on Instagram, everything, all the good social media. But more importantly, reach out to us. We want to talk to you, even just for a short conversation about, even for educational purposes about mobile home park industry, or just have a chat, meeting people. Definitely reach out to us at info@johnscreekcapital.com.
All right. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll catch you later.